Randolph, maybe to you, what do you think are some of the hopeful things that you see in media, sort of things that you think are going in the right direction, perhaps, for diversity in media? And what are some of the things that you think are the most troubling and things that you think perhaps, could be worked on as a participant, as an observer, as, new media, anything?
Well, I have to say, from my perspective, I don't have the experience you guys have. I've worked at.
You're a journalist.
Yeah, I know. I know that there aren't a lot of us in the newsrooms or just working within the building. That's one thing that's always been a constant at NECN. I've been there since '99, and I think still to this day we can count the number of minorities, like year by year. On one hand, maybe a 6 digit. So there's not a lot of people like us in newsrooms, in buildings, whether it's the production side or the business side.
Right.
So, I know that just walking into NECN, I had the mentality that it's the old adage. It's like just to get noticed, you have to do your job better than the average white person does. So I have always had that mentality. I'll say for myself, I think that NECN doesn't really it doesn't feel like that. They treat everybody fairly, but that doesn't stop me from trying to work harder and do my job better than the next guy.
What do you think are the best ways to increase newsroom diversity? I mean, what is the solution? Nobody's been able to really do it effectively in any particular way. They'll say, we'll go with the best tape, or we'll go with the best resume, or we'll go with the person who produces the best show. And perhaps that's true, and perhaps it's also the fact that they'll go with the person who seems to produce the best show to them because they have similar alignments in terms of what is familiar to them, and therefore it looks like something they're comfortable with. And so what is the appropriate way to perhaps introduce diversity without becoming the black sheep, without becoming the troublemaker? Sort of introducing it in a fashion that makes it more relevant and not just this issue.
My introduction to TV basically was I was at the Black Student Center back when it was in the Wheatley building. And I saw a posting on the corkboard for an internship at WCDB, a summertime internship. I was like, all right, fine. I've been working in the newspaper for, I've been working at the Mass Media, which is a student newspaper. Mm-hmm. So I was like, let's give this a try. So that was the way I got introduced to Channel 5 and TV in general, because the man that I worked for in the sports department told me about NECN. And to get to NECN, I interned over there. And that's basically how I got my foot in the door. And it starts with getting your foot in the door. As far as why the media doesn't seem to attract the minorities, or at least I won't say it doesn't attract the minorities, but then why the minorities don't get in there, I'm not too sure. I don't think it's a case of like a lack of good, candidates.
Sure.
So. I think it reflects culture and our pop culture overall, because I remember when I first got my first TV job, it was, there was standard that there were African Americans in every newsroom, male and female. You had one token Asian, and that one token Asian was usually a female. And there's a lot of psychology that even goes behind that now. If you look at stations across the country, big, small markets, chances are you're going to have probably 8 females to 1 or 2 Asian males. And a lot of that is because, it's kind of like the Smith Saigon thing, white guy, Asian girl, it kind of goes. But the Asian guys kind of have that stereotype of, you're supposed to be a lawyer or a banker, like you're not supposed to be a sports guy, or so it kind of falls under these stereotypes. And at that time, there were never, ever any South Asian, Indian Asians in the newsroom. And now it's unbelievable that you go across the board, and I have seen stations that I've followed over the course of years hire 2 at one given station, and it's a lot of that. I think it probably reflects too on this is for a time where you have a lot of the people who are immigrating from like the West Coast or the East Coast or Asia to here, where they're infiltrating little small towns like Wichita Falls, Texas, where I started out, where the mall didn't even have a Gap, but the TV station will have an Asian female. So it kind of infiltrates that, but I think it's reflective also of sociological issues also, of like the number of people that you see, and pop culture is like the Indian culture has exploded from Bollywood to like the movies of Slumdog to Anoop Dog on Idol, the popularity there. So I think it's reflective also is what you're going to see in television shows and eventually in the news.
Good. What about mentoring? Obviously, you mentioned, Latoya, that you were one of Hannah's mentors, and she mentioned that, obviously, which is nice. And I know that I had an AAJA mentee for years, actually, when I was more actively involved in the organization, and really enjoyed helping her, and I enjoyed having mentors and needed them early on. Has anyone mentored you that has been, special? Maybe what do these students need to kind of look out for when they're trying to find somebody that they might be able to latch onto, who's willing to help guide them in their career search?
Well, NECM has an internship program, and they bring interns, but as of right now, I don't think they're doing enough of a good job of pushing them in the direction to get the full experience. Hannah, of course, worked at spent some time at NECM, but she basically stayed in the newsroom, and that was it. She would do scripts. She went out with Latoya a handful of times, right? Something like that. And that was it. She could have gone back to her, coordinator, and the coordinator, I don't know if they told her that, but, at NCN, unlike, some of the union stations in the state, you can go ahead and learn anything you want to. So all you have to do is just walk into somebody's, office, audio, and just ask, can I watch? Can you show me how it's done? And all that other stuff. I used to have, interns on the weekends, sitting watching me edit, and I would not just, show them how to do my job, but I'd also get them hands-on, because I know that they only learn so much from just watching somebody else do the job, So I used to do it all the time, and it's not just because I had to, it's because I knew that, they were there for an opportunity. It was the kind of opportunity I had when I started at NECM working for sports. It was only on Sundays, but I started over there. It started off me watching how to do it, but they, quickly put me on the edit machines, and then I find myself editing golf every weekend.
Right.
So,
Nice. That's gonna be worse.
I can only imagine. But if that's what was, offered to me, I'm more than willing to give it back to somebody else. But hey, you could say it's up to the interns to, be proactive and go ahead and bug somebody. But it's also the coordinators that have to, encourage them to go ahead and try something else. Sure. Because as we all know, there's not just one aspect of TV. You guys work in front of the camera, I'm working behind it. And I have done several jobs from ENG to editing to receive to robos. I've filled in on audio in emergency situations.
Yep.
You can go ahead.
She shot and edited. I've run my own teleprompter and produced my own shows. I'm sure you have too. I mean, it's just we end up wearing a lot of different hats, unfortunately or fortunately. But
as far as mentors, or internships, I think that's the equalizer to me. I didn't come from money. I went to Emerson College where I had tons of kids in my family, so my mother got a deal on the tuition, but we still had to struggle to pay for it. And I remember going to Emerson and seeing these people who had, let's say, tons of money, and I looked at them and they just would go out and party all the time on the weekends. Well, I wasn't doing that. I was getting up at 4 in the morning, going to Channel 4 in Boston, running teleprompter, because I knew that that's the equalizer. If I get in there and say, hi, my name's Latoya, and I want you to remember me and help me make a resume tape and become your friend, you'll help me out to get that job. So when I put that work in college and made those relationships, so by the time I was graduating, my friends who maybe their parents wrote a blank check and they had a great time at college but walked away with no job, I had a job. You guys go to UMass Boston. This is a great education right here. But no matter what job you have to do that. You have to hustle. You have to get out there and get your face known. Now, Ivan, he's sitting there. He's a former intern of mine too. Ivan is very quiet. He's a shy guy. But Ivan even made sure he got to know me and got to know other people, so that when the internship was over, NECN hired him to even be a receptionist. Who cares? You're in the building at that point. I'll be the janitor if you want, but help me edit my resume tape. So. It's all about getting yourself in the building, and Randolph is right about as far as being making yourself a bug. Don't be an annoyance, but don't be shy and say, oh my God, I can't go over there and talk to Frances. But you have to at least try. All she can do is say, no, I don't have the time right now. And most likely she'll say, hey, let me show you how to write this script. So when you get these opportunities and you're in the building, make yourself known, or otherwise you're wasting your time, and really, you need to get the job. They're already there.
Right.